getting another contraction. Thank you, God. I'm about to meet my baby. Greetings, shalom, peace, blessings, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I really do love these sort of sit down and have a conversation with me. I make a lot of quick, fast-paced videos. If you guys follow me over on Instagram, you will see that I'm doing a lot of like 60-second, 30-second videos. And I've always been a really big fan of heartfelt conversations because it makes me feel like, you know, I'm a real person. I'm so glad that you took the time to sit with me while I share this story. When I was pregnant, I was constantly searching for home birth videos, positive birth videos, natural birth videos, and I found a lot of them, but I've never found any that sounded quite like my story. Hopefully it can serve as encouragement to other mothers out there who may be looking to have a home birth and just don't know where to start. Before I dive into my story and share everything that happened, I just want to take a second and give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High. I don't know how my life would be without the love and care and encouragement and strength of the Heavenly Father. So I would like to give all praises, all honor, and all glory directly to the Most High, who gave me the strength to have the home birth, who gave me the knowledge and wisdom to get into herbalism, to get into plant-based lifestyle and eating lighter and feeling better. I want to give all praises directly to the Heavenly Father for choosing me as his daughter, for seeing me, for holding me and keeping me protected and keeping me uplifted in the world that we live in. So now that that's out the way, let's dive into my story. So I wanted to start with why I chose to give birth at home, because as a first-time mom, I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to have a home birth, I wanted to have a natural birth, but I didn't have the confidence I needed to orchestrate a home birth. My intentions with getting pregnant was always just to birth naturally and to birth vaginally. I wasn't sure where it would be. I wasn't sure what hospital, what birthing center it would be at, but I knew that I just wanted to do things as naturally as possible. A little backstory is that I had already been plant-based for going on about 6 years. I had already begun healing myself through my journey of herbalism, healing myself from tons of hormonal disruptions, that some of which were passed through my bloodline, some of which came from, you know, toxic products, toxic pads, toxic hair care products. It's a lot of different stuff with us women that throws off our hormones. So before getting pregnant, I had already started that journey of healing myself, taking back control of my health, started getting to self-sufficiency, so I started learning how to grow my own food. God had actually been preparing me to be a mother and to birth a nation, but I didn't know what was going on. I'm just going with the flow and thinking that my life is expanding for some odd reason. I was supposed to give birth to my first child at a birthing center. And this was in 2020, so this was around the time that COVID was going on, and they were cracking down on a lot of strict policies. One of the strict policies that they introduced to me halfway through my pregnancy journey with my first child was that my partner was no longer allowed to come to my prenatal appointments and could not be at the birth. And another thing was that when I came to my appointments, also when I were to give birth, I would have to wear a mask. Now, these problems made me very uncomfortable because me and my husband, we had been journeying very closely through this pregnancy with each other. So being told that he was not allowed to see his child enter the world and that I had to be wearing a mask, that was not in alignment with how I envisioned my birth to be and what I really wanted. So I felt the inkling that I didn't want to give birth there. But yeah, I was still extremely shy because I was a first-time mom. I didn't have the confidence to advocate for myself, and I didn't want to raise any like suspicion, because these were people that I would, you know, be prepared. I would have to be ready for me to expose myself fully to these people. So I wanted to be on their good side. I wanted to trust them, and I wanted them to trust me. What made me deter from choosing to birth at the birth center was because I started asking more questions about some of the medications they were trying to give me. They were trying to put me on prenatal vitamins. They were trying to put me on iron supplements. And when I let them know that I was plant-based and I was on a completely whole foods diet, does not take any medication, does not take any pills, you know, it was a lot of backlash because I would always ask, hey, is there any other alternatives I can do? About 6 months through my first pregnancy, I was diagnosed with anemia. And they let me know that my hemoglobin levels were at a low level 4 and that it had to be at a level 9 in order to give birth there vaginally. When your hemoglobin levels, which is your blood glucose levels, when those levels are relatively low, it puts you at risk for going into shock or hemorrhaging when you actually deliver your baby, because it's like you don't have enough blood volume in your body to refuel itself when the child exits the body, basically. So what happened was, when I was told that, I went on a 4-week intense, you know, herb journey where I drank my red raspberry leaf tea. Pregnant mamas, you need to look up the benefits of red raspberry leaf tea. I can do a separate video on that if somebody wants me to, but red raspberry leaf tea is your best friend. It's great for strengthening the uterus. It's great for supporting pregnant women who's going through postpartum. It helps with milk production. It helps to tighten the vaginal floor and strengthen the vaginal floor before and after giving birth, because you do want that muscle to be very strong in order to push out a baby. So the red raspberry leaf tea was just my best friend. I drank that, and I'm not recommending you to do what I'm doing. This is just what I did. I drank that red raspberry leaf tea for the next 4 weeks. And I was pretty scared, because I was told that if I came back after these 4 weeks and my blood glucose levels were not at a 9, I would have to then get a blood transfusion, and I really did not want to do that. So what I did was I hunkered down on my red raspberry leaf tea. I drank 2 full glasses of that tea, one in the morning and then one before I went to bed. Also, I was already on a plant-based diet, so it was very easy for me to eat foods that were high in iron. That'd be your broccoli, your leafy greens, your beet, chocolates, things like that. Look it up. And started consuming a lot of foods that were high in iron. And when I went back to get my labs done, they let me know that my hemoglobin levels were now at a high level 11. So not only did it reach where it was supposed to, but it actually surpassed where it was supposed to be, and that was done naturally. And my nurses and doctors, they didn't believe that I actually did that through food and through herbs. They've never heard or seen anything like that, because usually women will take the iron supplements. And the thing about the iron supplements and the prenatal vitamins that they recommend that you take during pregnancy, a lot of times mamas have hard times digesting them, and it may have different effects with how it breaks down in a body. So when you're pregnant, you want to consume things that come in and come out of your body very easily, and this helps you give birth easier as well. So when you're pregnant mamas, you don't want to eat a whole bunch of foods that makes you constipated, or a whole bunch of dairy and stuff that you know you're going to be constipated from, because you want to create a nice flow of input output through your body, and that's also what helps you give birth naturally as well. I had a very nutrient dense diet, which I can link my plant-based pregnancy meal plan guide in the description in this video. You know, for any mamas who are plant-based or are looking to transition to a plant-based diet and need some different meal plan ideas, need some encouragement and some information on the vital minerals and nutrients that mamas need to increase when they're pregnant, my plant-based pregnancy guide will be really good for that, so make sure y'all check that out in the description. Also wanted to mention that during my pregnancy, I was not I eat a lot of salad, but during my pregnancy I could not consume a lot of big food. Like, I had to eat a little bit at a time. So what worked for me was juicing. I posted this on my TikTok, and I got a lot of feedback, because apparently they tell a lot of mamas not to consume like raw vegetable and fruit juice during their pregnancy. I don't know why they say that, because, you know, I did it and it was very natural for me to juice, because I had already been juicing like before I got pregnant. So what, I'm gonna stop, you know, this great benefit now that I have a baby? That didn't really make sense to me. Again, just my experience. So I would juice a lot of my greens, a lot of my kale, especially those greens that are like very like crunchy and harder to consume a lot of in one day. Yeah, I would juice it, and I would make a big mason jar of green juice, beet juice, grapefruit juice, fresh pressed fruits and vegetable juices that was high in minerals, high in nutrients. I would look up plant-based foods that are high in folate for moms, plant-based foods that are high in vitamin C for pregnant women. And I basically just put myself through school teaching myself what would be the best thing for my body and my baby during this time in my journey. And yeah, I just did a so extensive research. I'm writing everything down, and I want to say that hydration is the most important part, was the most important part for my pregnancy experience. Some feelings during pregnancy are natural. You will feel a bit tired, you will feel a bit drained, you will feel extra heavy, but I knew that one of the reasons why I didn't experience you know, any pain or intense cramping during my pregnancy experience, I didn't have any problems while being pregnant, was because I made sure that I was hydrated, and hydrated with the right things. See, this was not the time for me to pig out on soda and ice cream and pickles. I hear that often with pregnant women. This is not the time for that. We don't want to overindulge in the artificial. We don't want to overindulge in the processed foods. We don't want to overindulge in those things. With every craving, with every intense craving that comes up, 9 times out of 10, there will be a deficiency in the body, and this craving is alerting to you, hey, I'm lacking something. Hey, I'm lacking something. And this is the first thing that I know to go to. Being plant-based while pregnant was very different for me because a lot of people had their different concerns, definitely. A lot of people had their, you know, stares and questions and things like that. But the whole time, I feel like I knew what I was doing and I had it under control. Also, like I said, I was already plant-based for years before getting pregnant. So continuing that through the pregnancy seemed like normal to me, if that makes sense. So next, I want to talk to you guys about my faith and my mindset preparation, because preparing for birth, a lot of it is mindset. During my whole pregnancy, I prayed day in and day out, and even through my birthing experience. I remember calling out to the Most High and asking him and praying to him, please bring me my baby, please bring my baby. I'm so excited to meet him. I cannot wait to hold him. And you know, I just trust you during this experience. So overcoming fears of pregnancy and birth, because we have a lot that we're up against when it comes to birth. I'm not sure if you guys, I'm gonna give you an example. I'm not sure if you guys ever saw Big Mama. If you ever saw Big Mama, and if you're a Big Mama, you know, grew up watching Big Mama, then you know the part where the girl's giving birth. And I'm just going to use this as an example. The girl's giving birth, she's laying back screaming. It's this whole just crazy, chaotic, miscommunication, disorganization series of events happening while she's giving birth, and the security guard has to deliver her. I remember he had tongs, chicken grease. It was just a lot going on there. This is how we were brought up viewing birth. There's this thing called FOB, fear of birth. And fear of birth is pushed onto us, especially as Black women. Fear of birth is pushed onto us every chance they get. 9 times out of 10, they will not show you a gentle, peaceful, natural birth on TV. They will always show it being crazy. They will always show it being painful. They will always show it being screaming. I myself have never saw a gentle birth. I've never saw somebody give birth without screaming. I've never saw somebody give birth and it actually looked like it felt good to them. I've never seen that. So yeah, becoming pregnant, there is this fear that comes up. The more you inch closer to your birth, the more the fear increases, because you don't know what you're about to go through, but all you know is, oh, I might be screaming, I might need chicken grease, whatever the case may be, and that's not always the case. So what pregnant women have to do, we have to stop watching those things, and we have to start shifting our mind, our eye, and our ear, and our perspective to what a gentle birth is like. And I remember a lot of people asking me, aren't you scared? Aren't you scared to give birth? Aren't you scared to do it naturally? I would just hurry up and just get the epidural and just go ahead and do that. I don't want to experience the pain, but how are we to know what that pain will be like if we're so quick to get that epidural and we're not really willing to experience the pain? I know some women don't want to experience the pain. They just say, you know what, as soon as them contractions start, just go ahead and give me that epidural, because I already know I'm not going to be able to handle this. That, some women are like that, and that's okay. That's how they are. Me personally, I didn't want any interventions. I didn't want the epidural. I didn't want the laughing gas. I didn't want any pain medications. I wanted to use the natural power of my own endorphins to help me get through labor as naturally as possible. And that was just my own preference. Yeah, so you really want to try your best to make sure that that fear of birth is not taking over your mindset. You'll have people come up and talk to you and tell you all about their traumatic experiences. And what you have to do is you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Because so many people, once you become pregnant, now turn into doulas. Now everyone's a midwife. There's so many concerns that come up for you when you tell your loved ones, hey, I'm pregnant, and you're trying to do a home birth. Look, I've gotten so much backlash for wanting to do the home birth. They'll call you, neglectful, because a lot of people are very comfortable with the hospitals and the doctors, and they do feel like that is the most effective way to birth a child, regardless of how our people have been doing it for centuries before hospitals even existed. Even with the C-section birth, there are black midwives in the 1880s who would give women a C-section, and they would get them drunk on the banana wine. You could look this up for yourself. They would get them drunk on banana wine. Natural. It's a wine you make with banana skin. And they would get the women drunk, and they would have the C-sections and complete it within 2 minutes. And the only problem that they would have no problems. They would need no other medications after that. And the only problem that they would have is that their breast milk would come in a couple days later. This is common with moms who do have C-sections. The breast milk would come in a little later. During this time, a lot of babies were being born, so a lot of people around you could wet nurse your baby until you were able to nurse them yourself. Just a little history lesson. So now I'm going to dive into my labor and my birthing experience. So the day before my contractions started and I had my baby, I was just going about the day. I didn't know I was going to have a baby the next day. I'm literally I think I was gardening. I was watering my plants. I was cooking. Everything seemed fine. You couldn't tell me that I would be giving birth the next day. And I do have 2 children that I had a home birth with. And so I will be talking about my most recent birth, because those details are still more new to me. Even though it was about 2 years ago, I still remember everything like it happened yesterday. The day before my baby was born, it was about 5:00 p.m. and I start getting the contractions. And when I'm getting the contractions, I'm already used to experiencing contractions here and there, but this was around 5 p.m. that the contractions would actually stand out to me. And when I would get them, I would have to stop and hold something in, It wasn't painful yet. It wasn't too uncomfortable yet, but I was just getting contraction, last a couple seconds, and then it would be okay. Around 7 p.m. that night, I went to go wipe, and I saw that I had my bloody show. So when I wiped and saw the bloody show, I was hyped. I took a picture of it, and I was like, yo, baby gonna be here any minute now. So this is my second time giving birth, but it also feels like I'm doing everything for the first time again. Just wanted to mention that as well. So I see my bloody show, and I know, okay, it's go time. Let's go walk around. Me and my husband, we go to the mall. We walk up the steps. We walk down the steps. We walk around. and we get something to eat, and we have a 2-year-old, so it's easy to chase them around. We get something to eat, and we're really active in the mall for about, about 2 hours. We get everything ready to have our baby. We get all of our tools and supplies that we need. We already had them packed in a bag, but we get the bag and we get in motion and get prepared to have the baby. So I knew that my baby is susceptible to come between tonight, tomorrow night, the night after that, whatever. But when they do come and they say, hey, I'm ready to bust through that thing, I'm gonna be ready to meet them with the warmest embrace and the sweetest cuddles. And I was just so excited to meet my baby that I didn't care what the pain would feel like. I had been journeying through this pregnancy for so long, unaware of what you look like, unaware of who you are yet. And I just want to see you. I just want to hold you. I just want to kiss you. I cannot wait to meet you. So this was the thoughts and the energy that I had when it was time to actually go into my labor. I went into it positive. I went into it with affirmation. I went into it trusting God that everything would work out fine and everything was in alignment with God's divine plan. I am preparing to birth on the bed. During my first home birth, I did a water birth. And that was nice. The only thing I didn't like about the water birth was that we didn't have any like lights in the pool or anything. So it was a little hard to see what was going on. It was just like, feeling and things like that. I did see later on after I gave birth that sometimes people who have the water births, they'll have the birthing pool and they'll have like waterproof lights in the pool. I think that's actually a really smart, really great tip. If you are going to have a water birth, make sure you have a lot of light so people can see what's going on down there. But it wasn't much light, and it wasn't much light in the room that I birthed in as well. I decided with my second baby to have a land birth, to birth on the bed. That way I'm able to move around and see, and my husband could really see and angle me different ways and just really guide the baby out without there being the slippery water and, things like that. But if anybody wants me to, I can do a video on my perspective of the differences from birthing in the water and birthing on land, on bed, on floor, whatever. I saw that they each had their pros and cons, and if I do have a child again, I'm still not sure which one I would do because they both have their pros and cons. But anyway, I'm just specifically speaking on the land birth that I had. I also knew that, if need be, the shower was right there. So I could also run a quick bath and do a water birth if I felt called to at the time. So back to my birthing story, it's later at night. My 2-year-old, he goes to sleep around 11 or whatever. And right after he goes to sleep, I start getting those contractions around midnight. I'm getting the contractions and they're feeling very intense. These contractions start feeling very uncomfortable and not yet painful, but just uncomfortable. Before during the day, I was experiencing contractions maybe every hour, or it'd skip an hour, maybe every 2 hours. It calmed, or maybe every 30 minutes, but they were not consistent. I was waiting for my contractions to have a rhythm to themselves, to be coming back to back in a certain time frame. I was looking for my contractions to be coming about every minute or two apart from each other. So around midnight, I started getting them contractions, and they were very intense to the point where I would have to close my eyes. And what I did to help manage the pain was every time that I would get a new contraction, I would scream, "Yes! I'm getting another contraction. Thank you, God. I'm about to meet my baby." And that sort of energy and attitude tricks your own mind into wanting the contractions, because sometimes contractions, especially when you're getting closer to labor, they can hurt. They can be very, very uncomfortable. So what I did was I started tricking myself into believing that your contractions are your best friend. And if you're pregnant and you're listening to this, no matter where you are in your pregnancy, early on, about to give birth tomorrow, I want you to take this with you. Your contractions are your best friend. Every time you have a contraction, it is a signal that your body is getting closer and closer to meeting your baby. So you want to encourage them. You want to egg them on. You want those contractions to really pick up because you don't want to be in labor all day. You don't want to stall it. You don't want to go through contractions for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. You don't want to go through that. So when you're feeling like them contractions are starting to, start to pick up and they're starting to come a little closer to each other, that is what you want. You don't want to run from that pain. You want to build up that momentum so we can get to the birthing part. What we have to remember is that we are strong. We are powerful. Yeah, so I was really looking for those contractions to be closer and closer apart. So it was around midnight. And I would have a contraction. It would be really, really painful. It would last for about, a couple, maybe like 40 seconds. And then it stopped. And then I got another contraction around like 12:30. And that was the first set of contractions that were close to each other. So every time I would get a contraction, I remember I would have to hold on to something. I would have to stop whatever I was doing. I would have to stop whatever I'm saying. And this is how I knew that I was actually in active labor, because the contractions were to the point where it would stop me in my tracks. I couldn't talk. I couldn't communicate. I was able to go through my contractions and still converse a bit during the day. But at this point, they're about every half hour apart, 40 minutes apart. And the contractions at this point are truly, truly whipping my behind. They're pulling a lot out of me. And after every contraction, I'm getting a little more exhausted. So we get a contraction around 1 o'clock. And I also had like, I forgot the name of the app. I should have had that ready. But it was a birthing app to help you track your contractions. If anybody in the comments wants to remind me of what that was, maybe it would be helpful to another mama. There was a birthing app that I used to help me track my contractions so I can see when every contraction was and how long it was. 1 o'clock I would get a contraction. 1:15 I would get a contraction. Okay. 1:50 I would get a contraction, so they're irregular. They're intense, but they're irregular. And like I said, we're really waiting for that rhythm to come through with the contractions. I knew that I would know when it would be time to push the baby. So it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, fast forward, 4 o'clock. I had been in active labor. I had been doing all my stretches, drinking my water, no heavy meals at this point too. Even the day before that, I didn't have any heavy meals. I just made sure that I kept up with my teas, kept up with my coconut water. Maybe I think I had a smoothie just for some energy, just for a light snack or something like that, because I didn't want to poop or anything when I would be giving birth, or I didn't want to run into problems where I'd have constipation or gas or anything like that. So kept it very light with the eating during this time. When I saw that the bloody show happened, I started, just eating very lightly and very healthy as well. So it's about 4 a.m. when I get the most intense contraction I've ever felt. I hear people experience them differently. Mine was felt in my lower back area. And I remember every time I would have a contraction, I would have my husband rub and press on my lower back area as I was contracting, and it actually helped me go through the pain of the contractions. I was one of those moms who did not like being touched too much. Please don't, touch me and just leave me alone. If you know, I didn't think I was going to be like that, but when it was all said and done and I'm actually in the space of giving birth and so much is going on with my body, I'm sweating, I'm cold, my hormones are all over the place. I don't know if I'm going to poop, throw up. I just overstimulated, and I was one of those people who didn't really want to be touched during that time. And I kept believing that, through the YouTube videos that I would watch different women share their story. I would watch their birth, and I remembered those videos. Those videos came back up in my head when I was actually in active labor, and I told myself, what's so different from you and them? If you can see a woman give birth or hear her story that she gave birth naturally, why can't you do it? Why not you? Why not you? If me, if her, if the next woman, why not you? So I kept telling this to myself, why not me? I can do this and I will do this. And my prayers is what carried me through those intense contractions, especially during the times that I felt like giving up. And those thoughts came up. I wanted to give up. I remember like maybe about 20 minutes before my baby came, those contractions started hitting me hard. And my baby came around 4 something in the morning. So when I experienced my first super intense contraction at 4 a.m., I knew that I would be pushing that baby out soon. And after that, my contractions were starting to dwindle down and get closer and closer. They started being 5 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart. Okay, another 5 minutes apart. And then they started getting closer, a minute apart. I would rest. As soon as I recover, the next one would hit me. As soon as that one would end, the next one would hit me, right? And so now we've established a rhythm with the contractions. And this is when I knew with everything in me, it's time to push. The baby is about to come out. It's me and my husband in the room. Nobody else. I always knew that if things were to go wrong, the hospital was right down the street. If things were to go wrong, we have the number to the emergency medical team in the area. But I knew in my heart and my mind and my body that everything was going to be okay. That I would birth my baby with no problems. It's about 4:40 and my husband tells me that that he can see the baby's hair. And that I need to start pushing because he sees that the baby is trying to make its way out. And after feeling so tired and feeling so drained all those hours fighting these contractions, I magically mustered up all the strength and courage to say, okay, let's go. I gave one big push. And what it feels like for anyone who's never giving birth, what it feels like is basically like you're pooping, but from the vaginal area. It's all like the same motion, all in the same area as well. You know, I didn't know the head was out. I can't see. I don't know what's going on. All I know is I need to push until he tells me that the baby is out. I was on my hands and knees and my husband was behind me delivering the child. So I couldn't see what was going on. I also didn't know what was going on, like what part of the body was out, if the baby was backwards, what side it was out. I didn't know any of that. I just knew that everything was going to be okay. So I asked my husband, the head is out? And he's like, yes, the head is out. The head is out. You know, he's going through his whole own spectrum of emotions, which maybe I can get him to share his experience. I know he's all up in the thumbnail, you know, but he works so much nowadays. Our schedule's a little different, so we don't have the time to make a lot of content together. But hopefully one of these days I can sit down and have him share his experience, what it was like catching his children, and just, you know, I feel like he has a whole separate story to tell. So he tells me that the head is out and I start pushing. And I go to push. He's like, come on, one big push. I go to push. And baby didn't budge. I want to mention that I'm not just pushing. I'm pushing with my contractions. So every time I had a contract, I would wait for the contraction to start. And every time I had a contraction, I would work with that contraction to push my baby out. It wasn't until I had a contraction that I would actually start pushing again. But mind you, they're back to back. So I knew the next one would be coming soon. All right, we're gearing up for the next push. Push. Baby's still not coming out. Mind you, the head is just out. Now, my husband starts getting a little nervous because our first child slid out all in one swoop. This baby just got its head out. Now, I've already seen videos about this, so I knew that as long as the baby was facing the right direction, which is you want the baby's face to be facing your back. So we're going on about like the third push. Baby's head has been out for like a minute or two. I was already hip to the fact that a baby's head can be out just chilling until the rest of his body wiggles on out. So I knew that we were still okay. As long as the baby was facing the right direction, that we were good. All I needed to do was to push them shoulders on out. You're locked in. You can't really move too much while you're in this space. But I just remember switching my position from being on my hands and knees to sitting more like in an upright position to help gravity drop the baby down. Let me say that again. I'm on my hands and knees on my bed, birthing the baby. The head is out. But when I found that we weren't getting any progress with the rest of the body coming out, I switched my position from being maybe angled like this to being more like upright and having gravity work to get the rest of the baby out. So when I switched my position and pushed during that contraction, that's what caused the baby to expel out of my body. And this was such the emotions that came after the baby had left my body. It was almost like I immediately felt all this relief and all this oxytocin flowing to my body, just feeling very differently. When my husband said, you know, this is the final push, I'm ready to catch the baby, I'm like, babe, you ready? Are you ready? He like, yes, I'm ready. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give one more push. He like, this gonna be the one. 1, 2, 3. I gave that final push, and the rest of the baby's body slid out right into my husband's hands. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful, emotional, traumatic, enlightening, empowering experience. And so my husband has the baby, fluids leaving my body, and I immediately feel so drained. But I knew that I still had to get that placenta out. My husband has the baby. The cord is still attached to the baby, and he's holding the baby for me very closely to me. I turn around and I sit on the bed in like an upright position to go ahead and give the baby their first latch, skin to skin. I don't wipe any of the vernix or anything off the child. I just wrap the child and go directly skin to skin. I knew that this would help me with my breastfeeding journey. I knew that this would help me with the connection to my child, so I wanted to do that immediately. Thankfully, my child had no problem latching onto the nipple, and I knew that the first half of the birthing experience had been over, because the second half would be to birth the placenta. So I call up my mom and I let my mom know, like, Mom, the baby is here. It's a boy, because we also had a surprise gender with our second birth. But I let my mom know, you know, it's a boy. I'm so excited. I'm so exhausted. And she's like, yeah, I'm excited too. You know, how's your placenta? I'm like, Mom, the placenta's not out yet. And she gets very stern with me. She said, babe, you gotta birth that placenta right now. I'm like, I know, Mom, I'm so tired. She's like, And y'all know how moms, like, sometimes they give you that stern, they have that stern voice that kind of wakes you up, because I'm a little like doozy. Like, I'm conscious, but as conscious as I can be having an unassisted birth. And now this is something I wanted to mention that I didn't hear too many experiences about. After you give birth to your child, especially if you're doing a home birth, I'm not going to speak on everyone's birthing situation, because I know some hospitals and birthing centers, they go about birthing the placenta very differently. But me looking to go the most natural way possible, this is how I did mine. I went on ahead and I gave birth to my placenta. I didn't pull on the cord to have it come out. I didn't do any of that, because I didn't want the placenta to start to, you know, detach from my body manually, and that may cause an array of other problems if there are still pieces of the placenta, you know, located in the womb from the tugging and pulling. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted the placenta, when it was ready, to detach itself from the womb and birth its way out. So breastfeeding the baby as soon as it came out helped me with that process, because it helped keep the level of oxytocin flowing through my body, and the oxytocin is which helps you birth the baby, so it also helps you birth the placenta as well. See that my placenta came out a couple minutes after I gave birth. It wasn't too long at all, maybe like 5-7 minutes, something like that. I should have wrote it down just so I could remember specifically, but I remember it wasn't too long, and I did it while my mom was on the phone, so she was very, you know, felt more at peace and more just more okay with knowing that, okay, the placenta is out and safe, baby's safe, all that needs to happen is we need to get cleaned up and we need to get rested. And so I'm nursing the baby. I have my umbilical cord connected to the baby, but also it's attached to inside of my vagina, up and connected to the placenta. And I knew that nursing the baby would help the natural detachment of the placenta. My placenta was as big as my child, and it was kind of just like dead weight basically. You still have to birth that placenta, and you only have a certain amount of time to do it before it puts you at risk of being exposed open for too long, getting infections and things like that, and we don't want that. You don't want it to go over an hour after you delivered the baby and the placenta is still in. That's a problem. That's protocol to be transported to the hospital or to be transported to a medical professional. And this is all things that I knew too. I knew the time frame of when I needed to have the placenta out. I knew that if this went wrong, I have this person's number. I knew that if this went wrong, I have this medical system ready for me. It wasn't like I just went into this experience blindly. I knew everything that was going on, and I had all the information that I needed. And I really feel like sometimes that's all you need, is just a proper education. The placenta is out and everything, all is well. This is when I started getting into some different emotions that I want to talk about. And I feel like I'm reborn again. Like, I don't even know how to operate in this world anymore, because now I'm a new person. Like, I felt like my child, a new person in the world, learning how to walk again, learning how to talk again, how to communicate and navigate in this world again. I do want to hire a midwife and a doula and have a supportive birth team, because for me, I didn't have a big team. I had me, my husband, and God. And you know, sometimes that's all you really need to give birth. But you know, for the I'm so used to seeing women have a lot of people around them, supporting them, clapping for them, being on call and ready to help and offer food and, you know, pat you on the back and let you know you did it, and just have a specific protocol for pregnant women. You know, in the hospitals, there's welcome gifts that they give you, push gifts, and just different things that are like kind of normal after having a baby. Like, you get the congratulations and things like that. But for me, I would say that these are the more darker emotions that came with having the home birth, having the unassisted birth, was that I really didn't feel like I had enough of the support that I needed during that time. It's just my husband there, and as a man, there's only so much that he can say, because he can or never will be able to give birth in his lifetime. So you don't really feel me. Like, you feel me, you know what I just experienced, you've seen it, you know, and I know he was going through his own shock and different layers of emotions. It seemed like we're all we have for each other, and like, it was very hard for us to be there for one another, because we were both like kind of almost traumatized. Yeah, it would have been nice to have, you know, doulas around, more family and friends around during that time. It wasn't until we're all cleaned up, we're resting in bed, that everything starts hitting me. You know, what just happened. And this is when some of those darker emotions started coming up, because usually when you hear that someone has a home birth, or you tell someone like, hey, you know, that you just had a successful home birth at that, usually there's a lot of praise, there's a lot of congratulations, there's a lot of positive affirmations, and just feelings of like, wow, that person did it, that person had the birthday experience, that person, you know, you can kind of like put those people on a pedestal, especially if you're someone who is a mother who didn't have a natural birth. Maybe you wanted to and it didn't go that way. So if you see another mother who had a natural birth, it's easy to put these people on pedestals. It's easy to feel a little less than about yourself. But I want to say that when I had my natural birth, while the experience was beautiful, while the experience was enlightening, while the experience was rejoicing, it was also very traumatic. It was also very painful. And the level of strength that I needed to have during that time, I didn't even think was possible. Even to this day, I tell myself that wasn't me, that was God. You know, usually in the hospitals after you give birth, you have your doctors, you have your midwife, you have people around you congratulating you, telling you, you know, how great of a job you did, telling you how beautiful your baby is, encouraging you. You have women around you that have either seen this before or have went through it before, who knows what you just experienced, who knows how to touch you, who knows what to say to you and things like that. But at this time, it was just me and my husband, and it seemed like we needed someone for us. The things that I needed from him and the things that he needed for himself, you know, it was just like we as a whole needed support. And so that's why I highly, highly recommend having a supportive birth team, having a doula, having a midwife, because these people will really give you the support that you need. And you're in settings like these and you want to have a home birth or you want to have a natural birth and you're in a lot of pain and you might just need to hear certain things. You might just need to be held or touched a certain way. I just made a note that, you know, the next time I do have a baby, it is a non-negotiable for me to already have a birth team set in place. But since I didn't have anybody come to help me, and my husband, directly after I had the baby, everything fell on him. And I knew that I only had about a short period of time before he had to go back to work, and I was basically on my own. So a lot of the feelings that came up after I gave birth that night, and the next few nights, the next few weeks, the next few months, and I would say this would be the kickstart of my postpartum journey, was just feeling very alone. Like during my pregnancy, I felt very misunderstood for wanting to do a home birth because I didn't know anybody personally who had a home birth. I never grew up hearing about home births. There wasn't anybody I could call up and say, hey, how was your home birth? I didn't have any of that. I just had the internet. So I did feel very isolated and alone during my pregnancy. But those feelings of feeling isolated and just lonely, like they came so much worse for me after I had my baby. My second child weighed 10 pounds when we weighed them. So I vaginally birthed a 10-pound baby. And a lot of states won't even allow you to do that legally without requiring you to have a C-section. And I did not tear. Tell me how I did it. God. I was in a lot of pain after giving birth to my second child. He was a very big baby, and with that pain came a very slow recovery, and with that recovery came less of me going outside, less of me taking my walks, less of me being social, less of me being active. And this is when it started to feel like depressive. I have a new baby who I'm trying to take care of and help ease them into this world, and I'm stuck, stagnant, sore, hurt, and feelings and thoughts of regret started popping up in my head. Feelings and thoughts of anger towards myself, anger towards my husband, anger towards my child started to come up in my brain and in my body. Postpartum, it was a really difficult time for me because I did not prepare for it. I didn't prepare to have the help that I really, really needed, because I'm just this person who thinks that they can do everything on their own. And sometimes you do need the help. It's okay to ask for help sometimes. But for someone who do a lot of things on my own, I sucked it up, and me and my husband did the best we could to take care of me postpartum. And I want to say that it's not that I had no support at all, because I was around my family. I was around my brothers and sisters, my parents, and but we live in a society and a culture where everyone is doing their own thing. We're not in a close-knit village where my mom can take off work and sit with my newborn for the next couple months. It's not like that. Everyone still has their own lives going on. So since I didn't map out and really take the time to plan out my postpartum, I would say that I had a pretty rocky time trying to take care of myself and my baby and my 2-year-old while my husband is working to provide for our family, picking up extra hours because now we need more food in the house and more supplies for our newborn baby, and that's less of him around. So, it was rough. And I wanted to share my birth story right after having my baby, but I was going through so much mentally, emotionally, physically healing, and it took some time. I hopped on my Google, I pulled out my herb book, I studied again herbs that will help you with tightening the uterus after postpartum. Red raspberry leaf tea. Herbs that will help you with your blood, because after postpartum, after you deliver a baby vaginally or through C-section, you lose a lot of blood. So you want to make sure that you are refueling your body with those nutrients and minerals that were lost during that time. So we're coming up on the end of this video, and I'm so glad that you guys chose to sit and watch this far because I just be rambling sometimes, and I'm trying to think of anything that I could have left out. I may just make a whole separate video for any topic that I forgot to mention or that I wanted to expand on and didn't, or if you guys would like me to make any video suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to hear more of from my birthing experience. If you would like for me to make a video on postpartum and how I healed my postpartum journey completely naturally, I can make a video for that as well. Someone gotta let me know that that's what you guys want. And before I get up out of here today, I wanted to share some powerful scriptures that carried me through my pregnancy and through my birth that may be able to help you. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, and this says, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. And I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." Hallelujah. And then we have Psalm, this is chapter 139 verse 14. And this says, "I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth well." That's another great verse. We have another one. This is Psalm chapter 46 verse 5. "God is within her, she will not fall. God will help her at break of day." Psalm chapter 127 verse 3. "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." Hallelujah. So guys, I want you guys to know that if you're thinking about doing a natural birth, if you're thinking about having an unmedicated birth, whether you want to do it at a hospital, a birthing center, or at home, know that that calling is within you for a reason. Know that you can do this. Hopefully this answers some of your questions, and if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please do not hesitate to ask me whatever you have to ask me. All praises to the Most High. Thank you so much for giving me the encouragement and the strength to get up today and share this video. Also, my YouTube channel has just reached 100 subscribers, so shout out to you guys. Y'all are the best. To some people, 100 subscribers may not be nothing, but to someone who is new to YouTube, just starting out, it really does mean a lot to me that 100 dedicated people have subscribed to my channel, view my information as helpful, and that does just mean the world to me. So you guys rock. I feel like there's so much I'm leaving out, but for time's sake, I'm just gonna stop the video here, and also gotta get the kids ready for bed. It's about that time. So yes, hopefully this was helpful, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Shalom and much love. God bless, and have a beautiful week.